The pen weighs nothing. It's just a regular ballpoint black ink, the kind you'd find in any office supply drawer. But as I stare at the signature line waiting for my name, my hand trembles like I'm holding something that could shatter the world. Outside Susan Matthews' office window, rain drums against the glass. August in Georgia shouldn't feel this cold, but I'm shivering anyway. The air conditioning hums. The clock on the wall ticks. And my phone face down on the mahogany desk buzzes for the 54th time today. I don't need to look to know who it is. "Take your time, Alicia," Susan says. Her voice is gentle, practiced. She's been my lawyer for 2 years now, ever since David died and left me drowning in paperwork I didn't understand. She's the kind of woman who's seen everything women like me sitting in chairs like this one, holding pens that feel like lead, deciding between their hearts and their survival. But she hasn't seen this. Not exactly. I look down at the papers spread across her desk. 40 pages, maybe more. Colored tabs mark the important sections. Words printed in bold, irrevocable, permanent, conservation trust agreement. Once I sign, there's no going back. Not for anything. Not for anyone. My phone buzzes again. Call number 55. 3 weeks ago, I stood in an Atlanta wedding venue holding a glass of champagne I hadn't asked for, watching my daughter Rosa turn her back on me like I was a stranger who'd wandered into the wrong party. 3 weeks ago, she looked me in the eye and said 4 words that carved themselves into my chest like initials on a tree trunk. 4 words that made me understand I didn't know my daughter at all anymore. But that's not where this story starts. Not really. The real story began on a sweltering August morning when I woke up at 4:47 a.m., my heart already racing with something I couldn't name. The story began with a Navy dress I couldn't afford and an envelope of cash that represented every overtime shift I'd worked for a year. The story began with me believing that love was enough. I was wrong. "Alicia," Susan leans forward slightly. "Do you need more time?" No. My voice sounds strange, hollow. "I'm ready." I lift the pen. The tip hovers over paper. And I think about David, gone 14 years now, who once told me that sometimes the most important moments in life arrive disguised as ordinary days. Who said you never know which decision will echo across the rest of your life. He was right about that, at least. "Before you sign," Susan says quietly, "I need you to understand something. This is permanent. Once these documents are filed, no one can undo this. Not you, not Rosa, not anyone. I know. The land will be protected forever, but Rosa will never inherit it. I know." My phone buzzes. Call 56. I press pen to paper and begin to write my name, letter by letter, a choice made permanent in ink. But before you understand why, before you know what those 4 words were, you need to know how I got here. You need to feel what I felt standing in that wedding venue 3 weeks ago, watching my only child erase me from her life like I was a mistake that needed correcting. You need to know about the sacrifice, about the land, about the 70 years of family history that doesn't belong to me anymore. Let me start at the beginning. My alarm went off at 4:47 a.m., but I'd been awake since 4, staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, watching the darkness soften into gray. My heart had been pounding for hours. The kind of nervous energy that comes before something important. Before your only child's wedding day. I slipped out of bed quietly, though there was no one to wake. Just me and the Georgia morning settling around the farmhouse crickets, still singing, heat already building even in the pre-dawn darkness. In the kitchen, I sprayed the dress across the back of a chair. Navy blue knee-length. The kind of formal thing I never wore. $200. I'd counted out the cash at the department store, and the cashier's eyes had flickered with something pity maybe as she rang it up. "Special occasion?" she'd asked. "My daughter's wedding." How lovely. But her smile hadn't reached her eyes, and I'd wondered what she saw when she looked at me. An old woman buying an expensive dress she couldn't afford. A mother trying too hard. I buttoned up the dress with shaking hands. Not from cold, from something else. Something I couldn't name. In my purse, tucked carefully into a white envelope, was $12,000. Every overtime shift I'd picked up at the hospital over the past year. Every weekend I'd skipped my own rest to help families who needed in-home care. Every time I'd stood on swollen feet until my compression socks left grooves in my calves. $12,000 meant to represent all the years of love, all the sacrifice, all the belief in Rosa's future. I'd planned to hand it to her quietly during the reception. I'd imagined the conversation, how I'd tell her how proud I was, how much her father would have loved to see this day, How beautiful she looked as a bride. David. The thought of him always came at moments like this. I looked at our wedding photo on the kitchen wall, 1982. Both of us so young, so certain that love was enough to build a life on. He'd been gone 14 years now, but sometimes I could still hear his voice. She's going to be such a beautiful woman, Alicia. You're going to be so proud. He'd said that the day Rosa was born, standing in the hospital room holding our daughter for the first time, tears streaming down his face. I was proud. God, I was so proud. So why did I feel like I was driving to a funeral instead of a wedding? I grabbed my purse and keys. Outside, the sky was lightening to that particular shade of gold that only happens in Georgia summers. The air was already thick with humidity. My sedan, 14 years old, the last car David ever picked out, started with a reliable rumble. I pulled out of the driveway at 5:15 a.m., pointing the car toward Atlanta, an hour and a half away, far enough that Rosa and I didn't see each other often anymore, close enough that I had no excuse for the distance between us. The highway was mostly empty, just me and a few long-haul truckers headed in the same direction. I gripped the steering wheel and tried to settle the flutter in my chest. My father used to say that mothers know things. That instinct runs deeper than logic. Trust your gut, Alicia, he'd told me years ago when I was young and scared of making wrong choices. Your body knows what your mind hasn't figured out yet. But my gut was telling me something I didn't want to hear, that everything was about to change, that today would matter in ways I couldn't predict, that this wasn't just nervousness, this was goodbye. I pushed the thought away and focused on the road. The radio played softly. Some morning show host talking about traffic conditions, weekend weather, nothing that mattered. I reached over and turned it off. The silence that followed felt heavier than the music. Mile after mile of Georgia highway. Trees dense on both sides. The occasional billboard advertising truck stops injury lawyers. Jesus. The sun climbed higher, turning the morning gold into white-hot brightness. I thought about the last time Rosa had called me. 3 months ago. She'd been engaged for exactly 2 weeks. Mom, his name is Bruno. Bruno Sterling. He's amazing. He's in real estate development. He's going to take me to Italy for our honeymoon. Can you believe it, Italy? Her voice had been breathless, excited, young. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. When do I get to meet him? Oh, soon. We're really busy with wedding planning, you understand. But I hadn't met him, not before the engagement. Not during the 6 months they'd known each other. Not until today at the wedding itself. Rosa, don't you think, Mom, please, don't start. I'm happy. Can't you just be happy for me? Can't you just be happy for me? The words of a child wanting approval. But Rosa wasn't a child anymore. She was 23, an adult making adult choices. So why did I feel like she was slipping away from me and I couldn't catch her? The Atlanta skyline appeared on the horizon. Glass towers reflecting morning sun. Traffic got heavier. I merged onto I-75 following GPS directions to a venue I'd never seen, to meet a son-in-law I'd never met, to celebrate a marriage I wasn't sure I understood. I'd raised Rosa alone after David died. She was 9 years old when we lost him. Too young to lose a father. Too young to watch your mother work night shifts and weekend doubles just to keep the house. But I'd done it. I'd kept us afloat. I'd paid for her college. I'd made sure she never felt the weight of David's absence in her bank account, even if she felt it in her heart. And now she was getting married to a man named Bruno Sterling, and I was driving to Atlanta with $12,000 in my purse, an address I couldn't afford, hoping that somehow this would all make sense when I got there. The GPS announced my exit. I took it weaving through suburban streets until I reached the address Rosa had texted me 4 weeks ago. The Meadowbrook Estate, 9:30 a.m. ceremony at 2 p.m. Reception immediately following. Formal attire requested. No, I can't wait to see you, Mom. No, thank you for everything. Just an address and a dress code. I pulled into the parking lot at 9:45 a.m. The Meadowbrook Estate was beautiful, the kind of beautiful that costs money. A converted barn with ivy crawling up stone walls, massive windows letting in streams of golden light, manicured gardens with paths of crushed white gravel, white roses everywhere on arbors and massive arrangements scattered like snow across tables. I got out of my car and smoothed down my navy dress. The parking lot was already half full, florists carrying arrangements, caterers unloading boxes, a woman with a headset and a tablet moving from station to station like a general directing troops. Wedding planner, I assumed. I approached her carefully. "Excuse me, I'm Alicia Bennett, Rosa's mother. Is there anything I can—" "We have everything covered, ma'am." She didn't look up from her tablet. "The ceremony starts at 2. Guests can wait in the cocktail area." "Oh, I know. I just thought maybe I could help." "Really, we're fine, thank you." Her smile was polite but dismissive, the smile you give someone who's in the way. I stood there for a moment feeling foolish. Then I nodded and walked toward the building. Inside the barn had been transformed into something from a magazine. Exposed wooden beams wrapped in string lights, tables set with white linens and gold chargers, a stage for a live band. Everything elegant, everything expensive. Everything nothing like the small church wedding I'd imagined when Rosa was a little girl. But this wasn't about me. This was her day. I found a seat in the cocktail area, a smaller room with high-top tables and a bar being stocked by 2 young men in black vests. I sat down and placed my purse carefully beside me, feeling the weight of the envelope inside. That's when I saw him for the first time. Bruno. He walked in through the main entrance like he owned the place. Tall, maybe 6'2", dark hair slicked back, a suit that probably cost more than my car payment. Handsome in the way that makes you think of movie stars and politicians. The kind of handsome that knows it's handsome. He was talking to someone on his phone, laughing at something. His voice carried across the room. No, trust me. This is going to be perfect. Everything's falling into place." He hung up, looked around. His eyes passed over me once, twice, then stopped. For half a second, less than that, maybe just a heartbeat, his expression changed. His smile froze. His eyes went cold, like he was looking at something that shouldn't be there. Then it was gone. The smile returned warm and bright. He walked over. "You must be Alicia." He extended his hand. "Bruno Sterling. It's so wonderful to finally meet you." His handshake was firm, confident, the handshake of a man used to making good first impressions. "It's nice to meet you too," I said. "Congratulations." "Thank you. Rosa's told me so much about you." "Has she?" I wanted to ask, because she hadn't told me much about him. "She's getting ready upstairs," he continued, "with her bridesmaids. You know how it is, chaos and hairspray." He laughed. I smiled. "Well, I won't keep you," I said. "I'm sure you're busy." "Always," another bright smile. "But I'm glad you could make it. Really." He walked away before I could respond. I sat back down, my heart beating faster. Something was wrong. I couldn't name it. Couldn't point to a specific word or gesture. But something about that exchange felt off. The way he'd looked at me, that split-second coldness before the charm kicked in. Or maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was just a nervous mother looking for problems that didn't exist. I tried to push the feeling away. By 2 o'clock, the barn was packed. 200 people, maybe more. I'd been escorted to my seat by an usher who looked barely 18. "Mother of the bride?" he'd asked. "Yes." "Right this way." But he didn't take me to the front row, not even the second row. I was seated in the 5th row on the aisle. In front of me were people I didn't recognize. Designer clothes, designer handbags, designer smiles. The front rows were filled with Bruno's family, his parents, his siblings, his uncles and aunts and cousins. All of them looking like they'd stepped out of a country club brochure. The music started. Everyone stood. Rosa appeared at the back of the barn, and my breath caught. She was beautiful, radiant in a lace gown that must have cost a fortune. Her dark hair swept up her veil, trailing behind her like a cloud. She carried white roses and baby's breath. For a moment, she was my little girl again, 7 years old, playing dress-up in my wedding veil, spinning in circles in the living room. "Look, Mama, I'm a princess." But she wasn't 7 anymore, and I wasn't the one walking her down the aisle. Bruno's father was, because Rosa had decided that made more sense. "Since Daddy isn't here," she'd told me on the phone 3 months ago, "and Bruno's dad has been so welcoming. It just feels right, you know." I'd said yes because what else could I say? I watched her walk past me. She didn't look in my direction, didn't meet my eyes, just kept her gaze fixed on Bruno standing at the altar, watching her with a smile that made my stomach tighten. The ceremony was short. Traditional vows. Bruno's voice was strong and clear. I promise to build an empire with you, Rosa, to give you everything you deserve. We deserve everything. Empire, deserve, strange words for a wedding vow. Rosa's voice trembled as she spoke. I promise to trust you, to follow you, to build a life that makes you proud. Follow you. Not walk beside you, not build a life together. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe I was looking for problems. They exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Bruno kissed Rosa and everyone applauded. I clapped too mechanically, watching my daughter smile up at her new husband like he was the sun and she was a flower turning toward light. And I felt for the first time truly afraid. The reception started at 3:30, cocktail hour with past appetizers and champagne. I stood near the dessert table holding a glass of water I hadn't asked for, watching the crowd swirl around me. I tried to approach Rosa 3 times. The first time a photographer intercepted me. Family photos in 10 minutes, ma'am. But when family photos happened, I wasn't called. The second time, Rosa was swept away by bridesmaids, all of them laughing and taking selfies. The third time, Bruno's hand appeared on her lower back, guiding her in the opposite direction. Each time, Rosa looked at me for a fraction of a second, then looked away. I stood alone and watched her. Really watched her. The way she laughed, too loud, too forced. The way she kept glancing at Bruno like she was checking for approval. The way she flinched slightly when he leaned down to whisper something in her ear. Small things, tiny gestures. The kind of things you might miss if you weren't looking for them. Or the kind of things a mother notices because she knows her daughter's real laugh, her genuine smile, her authentic joy. This wasn't that. An older couple approached me. Bruno's parents, I realized. You must be Alicia, the woman said. Her smile was polite but didn't reach her eyes. I'm Margaret, Bruno's mother. It's nice to meet you. Lovely wedding, isn't it? Rosa is such a sweet girl. We're so happy to welcome her into our family. Our family. As if Rosa wasn't already part of a family. My family. She's lucky to have found Bruno, Yolanda continued. He's going to take such good care of her. Give her the life she deserves. There was that word again. Deserve. I'm sure they'll be very happy, I said carefully. Margaret's smile tightened. Well, we should mingle. Congratulations on your daughter's marriage. They walked away. I stood there feeling like I'd failed a test I didn't know I was taking. The DJ announced dinner. Everyone moved to their assigned tables. I found my seat. Table 17, in the back corner. With people I'd never met, distant cousins of Bruno's according to their place cards. Rosa and Bruno's table was at the front, elevated on a small platform, like a throne. I ate chicken I couldn't taste, smiled at conversations I couldn't follow, and watched my daughter from across the room trying to understand when everything had changed. When had she stopped calling me Mom in that warm, familiar way? When had her visits home become obligations instead of choices? When had I become someone to manage instead of someone to love? I couldn't pinpoint a moment. It had been gradual, like watching a photograph fade in sunlight, slow enough that you don't notice until the image is almost gone. At 8 o'clock, I decided to try one more time. I stood up, made my way through the crowd, reached the edge of the dance floor where Rosa and Bruno were talking to guests. Rosa, I said softly, honey, can we talk just for a minute? Rosa's smile disappeared, just vanished like someone had switched off a light. She glanced at Bruno. He nodded one small, almost imperceptible movement of his head. Permission granted. Rosa took my elbow and steered me toward the lobby, away from the music and laughter, into a quieter space with marble floors and uncomfortable-looking chairs. What is it, Mom? Her voice had an edge I'd never heard before. I just wanted to talk to you, to tell you how beautiful you look, to give you... I reached for my purse for the envelope. Mom, not now. It's your wedding gift. I wanted Mom. She cut me off, crossed her arms. I need to tell you something. My heart started racing. What's wrong? Bruno, he's uncomfortable with you being here. The words didn't make sense. I heard them, but they didn't connect to anything real. I don't understand. I haven't even spoken to him since. He says you've been hovering, watching us. He feels controlled. Rosa, I've been standing alone by the dessert table for 2 hours. I know, but that's how he feels. Her voice cracked slightly, but her expression stayed firm. And Mom, this is his day too. I need to respect his feelings. His feelings about your mother attending your wedding. Mom, please don't make this harder. Her eyes were dry, but I could see the effort it took. I need you to leave. Now. The world tilted. You're asking me to leave your wedding. I'm asking you to respect my husband's wishes. My husband, said like a title, like a role that superseded everything else. I looked at my daughter, 23 years old, standing in a white dress that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, looking at me like I was a problem to be solved. Rosas, please, Mom. I thought about the $12,000 in my purse, the years of night shifts, the sacrifices, the love I'd poured into every decision I'd made since the day she was born. I thought about David, gone 14 years, who would have known what to say in this moment. But I didn't know, so I said nothing. I just nodded, walked back through the lobby, out the front doors, into the August evening that was still oppressively hot. I got into my car, sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, and I didn't cry. I was too numb for tears. I just sat there watching the sunset behind the converted barn, behind the life I'd thought I understood, behind the daughter I'd thought I knew. Then I started the engine and drove home. The highway was darker now. Headlights from oncoming traffic swept across my windshield like searchlights. I drove in complete silence. No radio, no music. Just the hum of the engine and the sound of my own breathing. The numbness from the parking lot was wearing off. In its place came something else. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder, more purposeful. Questions circled in my head like crows. What did I do wrong? For 30 years I'd worked night shifts at the hospital, 12-hour stretches on my feet. Coming home at dawn to find Rosa already awake for school, her backpack by the door. How much did I sacrifice? Every dollar had mattered. That $12,000 still in my purse, unspent, unwanted, represented one shift at a time. Summer camps. New clothes when hers wore thin. Ballet lessons she'd asked for in middle school. When David died, I'd never once let her feel the weight of grief without someone holding her through it. That someone was always me. Why did she treat me like that? My hands trembled on the wheel. My jaw was clenched so tightly I could feel the muscle working beneath my skin. But I still wasn't crying. Crying would have been easier. Crying would have been a release. Instead, I sat with this cold, hollow feeling. The kind of silence that echoes louder than any scream. The road wound through familiar territory. Past small towns whose names I knew by heart, past turnoffs I'd memorized decades ago, an hour and a half from Atlanta to home. Not far at all, but it felt like crossing into a different country. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway, just the porch light I'd left burning before I'd left that morning. Was it just this morning? It felt like years ago. I sat in the car with the engine running, staring at the weathered boards and the front door that suddenly felt like a stranger's door. I couldn't go inside yet. Something was shifting inside me. Something I couldn't quite name. It wasn't anger exactly. It was colder than that. More purposeful. My phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out. One text message from Rosa. I'm sorry. Bruno says we need space. Please don't call for a while. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Bruno says. Not I think. Not we decided. Not even I'm sorry, but I need. Bruno says. In that moment, sitting in my driveway at 9:30 at night, I understood something fundamental. I hadn't just lost my daughter at her wedding. I'd lost her months ago, maybe longer. Lost her to someone who saw her not as a person, but as a tool, an access point, a way to get what he wanted. And I hadn't seen it coming. I turned off the engine. The silence was complete. Tomorrow morning I could feel it coming like a storm on the horizon. Tomorrow everything was going to change again. But tonight, I just sat in the darkness and listened to the wind. And I made a promise to myself. A promise that would cost me everything. I wasn't going to let him have her. Not without a fight. Even if that fight meant destroying the one thing I had left. The garden needed weeding. It always did in late August when the Georgia heat turned everything wild. I was on my knees in the dirt by 8:30 the next morning, my hands deep in the soil, pulling at stubborn roots that had wrapped themselves around the tomato plants. I hadn't slept, not really, just laid in bed staring at the ceiling, watching the numbers on my clock radio change. 12:47, 1:23, 2:56, 3:41. At 4:15, I'd given up and come outside. The physical work felt good, purposeful. Every weed I yanked out was something I could control, something that made sense. Unlike everything else. My phone was in my back pocket, silent since Rosa's text last night. Bruno says we need space. I'd read it 50 times, maybe more, each time hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something that hurt less. The morning sun was brutal already. Sweat ran down my back, soaking through my old t-shirt. My knees ached against the hard ground. My fingers were caked with dirt that wouldn't wash out no matter how hard I scrubbed. But it was easier to focus on the weeds than to think about yesterday. Easier to let my muscles ache than to feel the hollow space in my chest. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me check. Rosa's name on the screen. I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up. Hello. Mom. Her voice was different. Not angry like last night. Not cold, energetic, businesslike. Mom, hi. Listen, I need to ask you something. I stood slowly, my knees protesting. I'm listening. The farm. Grandpa's farm. Do you still have the deed? The question didn't make sense. I held the phone closer to my ear, certain I'd misheard. What, the property deed? For the land? Do you know where it is? I moved toward the porch, needing to sit down. Rosa, what is this about Bruno and I? She paused. When she spoke again, her voice had that rehearsed quality, like she was reading from a script. We have an opportunity. A business opportunity. What kind of opportunity involves your great-grandfather's land? Real estate development, Mom. The words came faster now. We could subdivide the property into maybe 12 lots, 15 if we're smart about it. Bruno knows developers. The returns could be huge. My hands went cold despite the heat of the morning. Rosa, that land has been in our family for 70 years. Exactly. That's what makes it so valuable. Mom, think about it. Prime location. 55 acres. We could build modern homes. This would be a huge project. The returns would be enormous. I sat down on the porch step, the phone pressed tight against my ear. This was Alicia, my Alicia, who'd spent her childhood running through those fields, who'd helped me plant tomatoes in the garden, who understood what that land meant. Didn't she, Alicia? I said carefully. Can you explain this more? Yesterday you didn't say anything about, Mom, we need an answer soon. There was an edge to her voice now. Impatient. There's an investor interested. This is time-sensitive. Time-sensitive, I repeated. Rosa, this is your great-grandfather's land. It's just property, Mom. Her voice had gone flat. It's just dirt and grass. But it could be our future. It could be security for my children someday. Don't you want your grandchildren to be taken care of? The words landed like stones, each one carefully chosen, each one designed to make me feel selfish for hesitating. Rosa, I need time to think about how much time. I don't know. We have a meeting with investors on Thursday. Her voice was clipped now, businesslike. Bruno's uncle is coming in from California. We need to show them we have control of the property. Thursday. I looked at the calendar visible through my kitchen window. Today was Monday. 4 days. That's not enough time, Rosa. It has to be. A pause, then softer. Mom, this is important. This could change everything for us, for our future. What about my future? What about the land itself? The land isn't going anywhere. It'll just be better, more valuable, more useful. More useful, like a tool, like something that only mattered if it could be converted into money. Rosa, your great-grandfather Antonio bought that land in 1954. He lost 3 fingers in a factory accident saving money for it. Your grandfather worked it for 40 years. Your father loved it like, I know the history, Mom. Her voice had an edge I'd never heard before. But that's all it is. History. We're talking about the future now. I closed my eyes. Behind my eyelids I could see Antonio, a man I'd never met except through stories. A man who'd worked himself to the bone so his children and grandchildren would have something permanent, something that couldn't be taken away. Let me think about it, I said quietly. Thursday, Mom. We need an answer by Thursday. I said I'll think about it. Okay, a pause. Bruno wants to talk to you, too, about the details. My stomach tightened. I don't need to talk to Bruno. This is between you and me. He's my husband now. What affects me affects him. What affects me affects him, but not the other way around, apparently. Rosa, I'll call you back soon. Okay, Think about it. Really think about what this could mean." She hung up before I could respond. I sat on the porch step, the phone still pressed against my ear, listening to silence. The calls started 20 minutes later. I was still on the porch, staring at the dirt under my fingernails, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed. Rosa again. I didn't answer. It buzzed again and again. By noon, she'd called 12 times. I listened to one voicemail. Just one. "Mom, it's me. I know this is a lot to take in, but please just think about it. Call me back. We need to talk about this." Her voice sounded normal, sweet even, like she was asking me to pick up groceries, not sign over 70 years of family legacy. I deleted it. The calls kept coming. 1:00 p.m., 2 more calls. 2:30 p.m., 3 calls in 15 minutes. 4:00 p.m., another voicemail. "Mom, why aren't you answering? This isn't like you. Bruno says, Mom, we just need a simple yes. That's all. Just yes, and we can handle everything else. The paperwork, the legal stuff. You don't have to worry about any of it. Bruno says." There it was again. I sat in my kitchen watching the phone light up over and over. Each buzz felt like an accusation. Each missed call a mark against me. By 6:00, the tone had changed. "Mom, seriously, you're ignoring me now after everything I find. But you need to understand this is a real opportunity. Bruno has investors lined up. We're talking about millions of dollars, Mom. Millions. And you're just going to sit there and—" She cut herself off, took a breath. "Just call me back, please." I made myself dinner. Scrambled eggs, toast, food I didn't taste. The calls continued. 7:00 p.m. "Mom, Bruno says if you don't cooperate, people will need to know the truth." I set down my fork. 7:45 p.m. "The truth about how you've always tried to control my life, how you never wanted me to be independent." 8:30 p.m. "How you never thought anyone was good enough for me, how you sabotaged every relationship I ever had." That one made me laugh. A bitter, hollow sound. I hadn't sabotaged anything. I'd barely met any of Rosa's boyfriends. She'd kept them all at arm's length, never bringing anyone home for more than a quick introduction. But now apparently I was the villain in a story I hadn't known I was part of. 9:00 p.m. The voicemail that broke something inside me. "Mom, please, I don't want to do this. But if you force us, Bruno says we'll have to tell people you're not well, that you're not thinking clearly, that you need help making decisions." My hands started shaking. "I don't want to do that. But Mom, you're not giving us a choice. Just sign the papers, please. It's the right thing to do." I turned off my phone, sat in the kitchen in complete silence, and I thought about David. At 11:00 that night, I opened my laptop. The house was dark except for the blue glow of the screen. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea I wasn't drinking and typed 2 words into Google. Bruno Sterling. The first result was a LinkedIn profile. Professional photo, charming smile, expensive suit. CEO, Sterling Development, LLC. Specializing in luxury residential projects and commercial real estate. 10 years of experience in property development and investment strategies. Impressive. Professional. Exactly what you'd expect. I clicked through to his company website. 1 page. That was it. Just 1 page with generic text about vision and excellence and turning dreams into reality. Stock photos of modern houses that could have come from anywhere. No actual projects listed. No testimonials. No portfolio. Red flag number 1. I went back to LinkedIn. Scrolled through his experience. Sterling Development, LLC, 2022 to present 2 years. Before that, nothing. Just a gap. No previous employers. No education listed. No references. I searched for his company name. Found a registered LLC in California, filed 18 months ago. Inactive status. Red flag number 2. I searched for news articles, real estate deals, press releases, anything that would confirm he was who he said he was. Nothing. I typed his name into Facebook. Found a profile, but it only went back 6 months. Recent photos of him and Rosa. A few check-ins at expensive restaurants. Smiling selfies at the beach. But no tagged photos from friends. No history before this year. Like he'd appeared out of nowhere 6 months ago, perfectly formed with a ready-made life. Red flag number 3. My tea had gone cold. The kitchen clock read 12:47 a.m. I kept searching. Instagram, same thing. Only recent posts. No old friends commenting. No family tagged. I went back to Google and tried variations of his name. Bruno Sterling, Georgia. Bruno Sterling Real Estate. Bruno Sterling Lawsuit. That last search made my finger pause over the mouse. Lawsuit. I clicked. The first result was a cached page from a forum. Someone asking about Sterling Development LLC in California. The thread was 3 years old. Anyone know about this company? My friend invested $50,000 and now they're not returning calls. I worked with them. Total scam. They took our money for a development project that never happened. Good luck getting a refund. File a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. I did. Nothing came of it, but at least it's on record. My heart was pounding now. I searched for Better Business Bureau complaints. Found the page. Sterling Development LLC had 6 complaints filed. All of them about money. All of them unresolved. I kept digging. Found a court record. Civil suit filed in Los Angeles County, 2021. Bruno Castellano versus former business partner. Castellano. Not Sterling. Castellano. I searched that name. And there he was. Same face, same smile, different name. Bruno Castellano had 3 lawsuits attached to his name. 2 in California, 1 in Nevada. 2017 sued by a business partner for embezzlement. Settled out of court. 2019 sued by a landlord for 6 months of unpaid rent and property damage. Judgment against him for $23,000. 2021 sued by an ex-girlfriend for fraud. She claimed he'd borrowed $50,000 for a business investment that never materialized. Settled for an undisclosed amount. I sat back in my chair, my hands shaking. Bruno Sterling wasn't his real name. He'd legally changed it 5 years ago. Public record showed the name change in California 2019, right after the landlord judgment. He'd reinvented himself. New name, new identity, new history. And now he'd found my daughter. I called Susan Matthews at 8:00 a.m. the next morning. "Alicia," she answered on the second ring. "What's wrong?" "I need to see you. Today, if possible." "I have an opening at 10. Can you make it?" "I'll be there." The drive to Macon took 40 minutes. I spent the entire time gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing through everything I'd found last night. Susan's office was in a modest brick building downtown. I'd been here twice before, once when David died and I needed help with his will, and once last year when I'd updated my own. She met me at the door. Susan Matthews was 62, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that had seen too much human pain to be easily shocked. "Come in," she said simply. Her office was small but orderly. Books on family law lined the shelves. Diplomas from universities I'd never heard of. Photographs of what I assumed were her children, now grown. She gestured to the leather chair across from her desk. I sat clutching my purse like it contained everything I had left to lose. "Tell me what happened," Susan said. So I did. I told her about the wedding, about being asked to leave, about the call the next morning, about Rosa's demands and Bruno's threats, about 70 years of family history hanging in the balance. My voice didn't shake. I didn't cry. But when I finished, I felt completely hollowed out. Susan had been taking notes the whole time. Now she set down her pen and looked at me directly. "Alicia, I need you to listen to something." Her voice was gentle but firm. "What your daughter's husband is doing, what he's pressuring your daughter to help him do this, isn't just about money. This is about control." "I don't even know who he is," I said. "I met him for the first time at the wedding." "Tell me about him. Everything you know." I pulled out my phone and showed her what I'd found. The name change, the lawsuits, the complaints, the patterns. Susan read through everything carefully. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "How much do you know about Rosa's relationship with him?" she asked. "Almost nothing. They've been together 6 months, engaged after 3. "Did Rosa have money before the marriage?" I shook my head. "Student loans. A decent job as a graphic designer, but nothing substantial. She was living in a small apartment in Atlanta, sharing it with a roommate." "And Bruno? He drives a BMW, wears expensive suits, talks about investments and projects. But no actual money," Susan said. It wasn't a question. "I don't know." "Alicia, give me 24 hours. I want to run a full background check on Bruno Sterling or Bruno Castellano or whoever he really is. I have contacts who can find things that don't show up in Google searches. For the first time in 2 days, I felt a flicker of something other than panic. Hope. Do you think... I couldn't finish the sentence. I think your instincts are right, Susan said. And I think you need to be very careful. Men like this men who change their names and leave a trail of lawsuits, they're dangerous. Not always physically, but in other ways. They know how to manipulate, how to isolate, how to control. Rosa's not weak, I said quickly. She's smart. I'm sure she is. Susan's voice was kind. But Alicia intelligence doesn't protect you from manipulation. Sometimes it makes you more vulnerable because you think you're too smart to fall for it. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Go home, Susan said. Don't answer Rosa's calls for now. Don't engage. Let me do my work. I'll call you as soon as I have information. I stood to leave. Alicia, Susan called as I reached the door. One more thing. Start thinking about worst-case scenarios. If Rosa is being manipulated, if Bruno is using her to get to your property, you need to be prepared to make hard choices. Choices that might feel like you're choosing the land over your daughter. But really, you'd be choosing to protect her from someone who's using her. I drove home in a daze, Susan's words echoing in my head. Hard choices. How hard could choices get when you'd already lost everything that mattered? Susan called at 5:00 p.m., just as I was making dinner. I wouldn't eat. Alicia, I have preliminary information. Can you talk? I sat down at the kitchen table. Yes. Bruno Castellano has approximately $150,000 in outstanding debt. Credit cards maxed out. 2 car loans in default. He's been evicted twice in the past 5 years. He currently lives in a rental apartment in Buckhead that costs $3,000 a month, which he's 2 months behind on. My hands tightened on the phone. He has no assets, Susan continued. No property, no investments, no savings. The BMW he drives is leased, and he's behind on those payments too. How does he live like he's wealthy? Smoke and mirrors, credit, debt, and now I suspect your daughter. I closed my eyes. There's more, Susan said quietly. I spoke to his ex-wife, the second one. She was willing to talk. What did she say? She said Bruno didn't start by asking for money. He started by making her feel special, loved. Then slowly he isolated her from her friends and family, made her feel like they didn't understand their relationship. Once she was isolated, that's when the financial requests started. I felt sick. First it was small things, a loan to cover rent, money for a business license, then bigger asks, investment capital, partnership stakes. By the time she realized what was happening, he'd gone through $80,000 of her inheritance. Jesus, I whispered. When she finally told him no more, he left. Found someone else within a month. Someone else with money. Yes. We sat in silence for a moment. Alicia, I need to be blunt. Your daughter fits his pattern perfectly. Young, recently married, heir to valuable property, and isolated from her primary support system, you. What do I do? That depends on what you want to protect. Rosa or the land? I want to protect Rosa. Then you might have to sacrifice the land. No. The word came out sharper than I intended. If I sign over the land, he wins. He gets what he wants, and Rosa is still trapped with a man who sees her as a tool. You're right, Susan said, which is why I think you need to consider the alternative. What alternative? Let me run through options. We'll discuss when you come in tomorrow. But Alicia, start thinking about the unthinkable, because I suspect things are going to get worse before they get better. She was right. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Rosa's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mom, hi. Rosa's voice was bright, artificially cheerful. Bruno wants to talk to you. I'm putting you on speaker. Before I could respond, a man's voice filled my kitchen. Alicia? Bruno's voice was warm, confident. I'm so glad we finally get to talk properly. I feel like we got off on the wrong foot at the wedding. You kicked me out, I wanted to say, but I stayed silent. Listen, I know Rosa's been talking to you about the property. I wanted to call personally to explain our vision. Your vision. Our vision, he corrected smoothly. Rosa and I were building a future together, and your land, that beautiful property that's been in your family for so long, it could be the foundation of something incredible. It's already something incredible. It's our family's legacy. Of course, of course. And we respect that. But Alicia, let me be honest. Legacy doesn't pay bills. Legacy doesn't secure Rosa's future. What we're proposing would turn that land into real wealth. Generational wealth. His voice was smooth, practiced, like a salesman who'd given this pitch 100 times. The returns could be enormous, he continued. We're talking 7 figures minimum, and Rosa wants to share that with you, 40%. You'd walk away with at least $400,000, maybe more. $400,000. The number hung in the air. Think about what you could do with that money, Bruno said. Travel, retire properly. Never worry about medical bills or, I don't want the money. Silence. I'm sorry. I said I don't want the money. The land isn't for sale. Alicia. His voice had changed. Still smooth, but with an edge now. I think you're not understanding the opportunity here. I understand perfectly. Then why are you being so difficult? Bruno. No, let me finish. The warmth was gone now. Rosa's my wife. That land will eventually be hers anyway. We're just asking you to be smart about this, to help us maximize its value now when it can actually do some good. It's doing good exactly where it is. Sitting empty, doing nothing. Alicia, come on. That's selfish. The word hit like a slap. Excuse me. You heard me. You're being selfish. Your daughter is trying to build a life and you're standing in her way because of some sentimental attachment to dirt and grass. That dirt and grass is my family's. Your family's what Museum Alicia Rosa told me about her childhood, about the sacrifices you made. I respect that. But this is her turn to build something. And you're stopping her. I heard Rosa's voice in the background. Bruno, maybe? No, she needs to hear this. His voice was sharp now, angry. Alicia, let me be very clear. If you don't cooperate with us, people are going to know the truth. The truth about how you've controlled Rosa her entire life. How you never let her make her own decisions. How you've always needed her to depend on you. That's not... It is true. Rosa's been telling me stories about how you guilt-tripped her every time she wanted to do something without you, about how you sabotaged her relationships, about how you can't stand to see her happy with someone else. My vision blurred with rage. Put Rosa back on. She's right here. Rosa, is this what you want? Do you believe what he's saying? A pause. Then Rosa's voice, small and uncertain. Mom, we just want the land. We need it. You need it, or he needs it? Rosa, listen to me. Your father left that land in trust. He wanted it protected. He wanted... Dad's dead. Her voice turned cold. He's been dead for 14 years. You can't use him to guilt me anymore. The words cut deeper than anything else. I'm not trying to guilt you. I'm trying to protect... We need an answer by Thursday, Bruno interrupted. Either you're with us or you're against us. Your choice. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. And I knew, without a doubt, without hesitation. Bruno Sterling wasn't just manipulating my daughter. He was destroying her. And I was going to stop him. I turned my phone off after the call. Couldn't handle any more. Couldn't process what had just happened. But I couldn't sleep either. At 2 a.m. I turned the phone back on. 17 missed calls. 8 voicemails. I listened to one, the last one, left at 11:47 p.m. Rosa's voice filled my dark bedroom. She was crying. Mom, it's me. I don't know why you're being so difficult about this. Bruno says you're scared. Scared of losing control over me. But Mom, I'm 23 years old. I'm married. I need to make my own decisions. A shaky breath. This land? It's just dirt, Mom. It's just property. But it could be our future. It could be security for my children someday. Don't you want grandchildren to be taken care of? Her voice broke. Please just sign the papers. Bruno has the documents ready. All you have to do is sign. If you don't... She trailed off. Then quieter. He says people will need to know the truth. About how you've manipulated me my whole life. How you never wanted me to be independent. How you sabotaged every relationship I ever had because you needed me to depend on you. I could hear her crying harder now. I don't want to tell people that, Mom. I don't want them to think badly of you. But if you force us, if you make us, please don't make me choose between you and my husband. Please. Another long pause. Just sign the papers. Please. It's just land. It's not worth losing each other over. Is it? The message ended. I lay in the darkness staring at the ceiling. Is it worth losing each other over? That was the question, wasn't it? But Rosa had it backwards. I wasn't the one making her choose. Bruno was, and if I signed those papers, I wouldn't be saving our relationship. I'd be teaching her that love meant giving up everything, that family meant letting yourself be used, that saying yes to someone who hurt you was easier than saying no. I thought about David, about what he would say if he were here. I could almost hear his voice. Protect her, Alicia. Even if it means she hates you. Even if it means losing her for a while. Protect her from people who would use her. Protect the land so it can't be used against her. Protect our legacy. But what if I lose her forever? Then you lose her with your dignity intact. You lose her knowing you did the right thing. You don't lose her as a hostage to a man who sees her as a tool. I closed my eyes, made a decision. Tomorrow I would call Susan, and I would do the unthinkable. Wednesday morning, I woke up at 5, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table and stared at the land through my window. 55 acres, 3 generations of Bennett blood and sweat. Antonio, my grandfather-in-law, had bought this land in 1954, saved for 30 years, lost 3 fingers in a factory accident and kept saving, came to America with nothing and died owning something. David's father, Leonard, had worked this land for 40 years, every morning before dawn, every evening after his job at the plant. Kept the soil rich, kept the fences strong, kept the promise alive. David had loved this land like it was part of his body, walked these fields every morning, planned improvements he never got to see, and before he died, he'd made me promise. Protect it, Alicia. Promise me. I'd promised, but he hadn't known Rosa would marry someone like Bruno. He hadn't known our daughter would be weaponized against everything we'd built. I picked up my phone, called Susan. Alicia, it's 5:30 in the morning. I know. I need to see you today. I need to know about all my options. Usan's office at 9 a.m. She had files spread across her desk, lots of them. I've been working all night, she said. Sit down. I sat. Alicia, what I found. It's not good. It's significantly worse than I thought. She pulled out the first file. Bruno Castellano, now Bruno Sterling, has been involved in at least 5 major civil cases over the past decade. Not criminal charges, but civil disputes. Always involving money. She read from the documents. 2015, sued by business partner for fraud. Claimed Bruno promised a return on investment that never materialized. Settled for $45,000. 2017, sued by former landlord. Property damage and 6 months unpaid rent. Judgment against him for $23,000. 2019. That's when he changed his name legally. Filed in California. Bruno Castellano became Bruno Sterling. 2020, sued by an ex-girlfriend. She claims he borrowed $50,000 for a real estate project that didn't exist. Settled out of court. 2022, sued by investors in Sterling Development, LLC. They put in $120,000 collectively. Company went inactive 6 months later. Case was dropped when Bruno filed for bankruptcy protection. She looked up at me. Alicia, this is a pattern. It's not bad luck or misunderstandings. This is what he does. He finds people with money, I said slowly, or people with access to money, and he uses them. She pulled out another file. I also spoke to his first wife. She didn't want to go on record officially, but she was willing to talk to my investigator. What did she say? Susan read from notes. He didn't start with money. He started with isolation. Made me feel like my family didn't understand us, like my friends were jealous. Within 6 months, I barely talked to anyone but him. That's when the financial requests started. Small at first, then bigger. By the time I realized what was happening, he'd gone through my entire savings, $65,000, and maxed out 3 credit cards in my name. When I told him no more, he was gone within a week. My hands were shaking. The second wife said almost exactly the same thing, Susan continued. Different timeline, same pattern. Isolation, then financial exploitation, then disappearance when the money ran out. And now Rosa, I whispered. And now Rosa, young, just married, heir to valuable property. and already isolated from her primary support system. Me. You. Susan leaned forward. Alicia, here's what I think is happening. Bruno married Rosa because he knew about the land. Whether he found out before or after they met, I don't know. But he saw an opportunity. 55 acres in Georgia worth over $1 million. If he can convince Rosa to pressure you into signing it over, he can subdivide it, flip it, and walk away with a fortune. And then he'll leave her. Yes. Based on his pattern, yes. Once he gets what he wants, he moves on. I thought about Rosa's voice on the phone, the way she'd echoed Bruno's words, the way she'd lost herself in his script. What do I do? I asked. Susan pulled out one more file. This one was thicker, official looking. There's a legal mechanism specifically designed for situations like this. It's called a conservation trust. Explain it to me, I said. Susan opened the file. A conservation trust is a legal entity designed to protect property permanently. Once property is transferred into the trust, it can never be sold, subdivided, or developed. It's protected in perpetuity. Forever. Forever. The land would be managed by trustees, people you appoint, but no individual person would own it. Not you, not Rosa, not anyone. It would belong to the trust itself. So Rosa couldn't inherit it. No, that's the trade-off. By protecting the land, you're removing it from the inheritance chain entirely. I sat back in my chair. She'll hate me. Probably. At least at first. She'll think I chose land over her. She might. Susan's voice was gentle. But Alicia, think about what you'd actually be choosing. You'd be choosing to protect her from a man who's using her. You'd be choosing to remove the leverage he has over both of you. By destroying her inheritance. By protecting something that can't be used to manipulate her. I looked out Susan's window. The street below was busy with morning traffic. People going about their normal lives, not knowing that in this small office, a woman was deciding whether to break her daughter's heart to save her soul. There's something else, Susan said quietly. She pulled out an envelope. Old, yellowed at the edges. When I contacted David's lawyer, the one who handled his estate, he sent me this. It's been in storage for 14 years. My hands trembled as I took it. The envelope was addressed in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. To Alicia only, to be opened if the farm is threatened. David's handwriting. He knew, I whispered. 14 years ago, he knew something like this might happen. Open it, Susan said. I did. Inside was a letter, 2 pages. David's handwriting shaky from the illness, but unmistakably his. I read it aloud, my voice breaking. My dearest Alicia, if you're reading this, it means something I feared has come to pass. Someone is trying to take the farm from our family. I need you to know I saw this coming. Not the specifics. I couldn't know who or when or how, but I understood that wealth attracts predators. And our farm, though it never felt like wealth to us, is exactly that. I consulted with a lawyer 3 weeks before I died. He told me about conservation trusts, legal mechanisms that can protect property forever. At the time, I didn't act. Rosa was only 9. I hoped that by the time she was grown, she'd understand what this land means, that she'd protect it herself. But if she doesn't, if someone has poisoned her against you, if she's asking you to give up something our family has protected for 70 years, please know this. You're not choosing land over your daughter. You're protecting our daughter from someone who sees her as a tool. The farm is power, Alicia. Whoever controls it controls her future. Don't let a predator have that power. I've set up the legal framework. Everything is ready. All you have to do is activate it. This isn't about money. This isn't about property. This is about protecting Rosa from herself, from whoever is using her. I love you. I love Rosa. And I trust you to do what I couldn't make, the hard choice. Choose protection over comfort. Choose long-term safety over short-term peace. Choose to be the villain in her story now so she can be free later. Forever yours, David. P.S. Don't let her hate make you doubt yourself. You're doing the right thing, I promise. I finished reading, folded the letter carefully, held it against my chest. Susan was quiet, letting me process. He knew, I said again. He knew I'd face this choice. He knew you'd need permission to make it. Support. A reminder that you're not alone in this decision. I looked at the conservation trust documents on Susan's desk. If I do this, Rosa will lose her inheritance. but she'll be free from Bruno's manipulation. Once the land is in trust, he has no reason to stay, no leverage, no prize at the end, and she'll hate me. Maybe, for a while. But Alicia, Susan leaned forward, would you rather have her hate you and be free, or love you and be trapped? The question hung in the air. I thought about Rosa's voice on the phone, the script she'd been reading, the way Bruno's words had replaced her own. I thought about David's letter, his trust in me to make the impossible choice. I thought about Antonio saving for 30 years, Leonard working for 40, David planning from his deathbed, 3 generations protecting this land so the 4th could be free. Do it, I said. Alicia, prepare the documents, I'll sign them. Susan studied my face. You're certain? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. It will take about 2 weeks to prepare everything properly. I need to file paperwork, establish trustees, ensure everything is ironclad. During that time, Rosa and Bruno will keep pressuring you. I won't answer. They'll escalate. Let them. Susan nodded slowly. All right, I'll start immediately. But Alicia, once you sign these documents, there's no going back. This is permanent. Forever. Do you understand? I picked up David's letter again. Read the last line. Don't let her hate make you doubt yourself. You're doing the right thing. I promise. I understand, I said. Prepare the papers. I'll be ready. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Susan worked quickly, but the legal process couldn't be rushed. Documents had to be drafted. Trustees had to be appointed. The state had to be notified. Everything had to be perfect, because once it was done, it could never be undone. During those 2 weeks, my phone rang 347 times. I counted every single one. I didn't answer. The voicemails piled up. Angry at first, then pleading, then threatening, then angry again. A cycle that repeated until I stopped listening to them entirely. Bruno tried calling from different numbers. I recognized his voice immediately and hung up. Rosa sent texts, dozens of them. Mom, please, we're running out of time. The investors are backing out. You're ruining everything. Bruno says if you don't sign by Friday, we're going to have to take legal action. I can't believe you're doing this to me. Fine, don't answer, but you'll regret this. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I drove to the farm, our farm, the land that had started all of this. It was October now. The heat had finally broken. The Georgia autumn arrived with cooler air and leaves beginning to turn gold and crimson, the kind of weather that made you remember why you loved this place. I parked my car at the edge of the property and walked. 55 acres, every inch of it familiar. Every tree, every creek bend, every rise and fall of the land. I walked to the oak tree Antonio had planted in 1955. Massive now, its branches spreading like arms offering shelter. I placed my hand on the rough bark. I'm sorry if I'm making the wrong choice, I said aloud. To Antonio, to Leonard, to David, to whoever was listening. But I can't let him have this. I can't let him use it to destroy her. The wind moved through the leaves. No answer, just wind. I walked to the creek where Rosa had played as a child, where David had taught her to skip stones on summer afternoons when the water was low. 5 skips, Daddy, did you see? I saw, baby girl, you're getting good. Will this always be ours? Always, Rosa. This land is your birthright. But birthright didn't mean the right to destroy, didn't mean the right to sell to the highest bidder, didn't mean handing it over to a man who saw it as nothing more than dollar signs. I walked to the garden where David had died. Not literally. He'd died in a hospital room, his body failing despite every treatment. But this garden was where he'd told me the truth. 3 months before the end. We'd been pulling weeds together. October just like now. The same golden light, the same cooling air. Alicia, I need to tell you something. What is it? I'm not going to beat this. I'd stopped pulling weeds. Looked at him, seen the truth in his eyes. David, let me finish. I don't have much time, so I need to say things clearly. He'd taken my hand. His grip was weak but determined. The farm. Promise me you'll protect it. Of course. No, Alicia. Really promise. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter who asks, no matter what pressure you face, you'll protect this land. I promise. Not even for Rosa. Especially not for Rosa if she ever asks you to give it up. Promise me. I'd looked at him confused. Why would Rosa... Promise me. People change. Circumstances change. Someone might come along who sees this land as an opportunity, who uses Rosa to get to it. If that happens, promise me you'll protect the land. Because in protecting the land, you'll be protecting her. I don't understand. You will. He'd squeezed my hand. One day you'll understand. And when that day comes, I need you to know it's okay to say no. It's okay to choose protection over peace. It's okay to be the villain in someone else's story if it means saving them from themselves. I'd promised. And now, 14 years later, standing in the same garden, I finally understood what he'd meant. He'd known. Somehow he'd known. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the property. I sat down on the ground right there in the garden, and I cried. Not because I was sad, not because I was afraid, because I was saying goodbye. Tomorrow I would sign the papers. Tomorrow this land would no longer be mine. It would belong to the trust, to the future, to forever, and Rosa would hate me for it. But David was right. In protecting the land, I was protecting her. Even if she never understood that, even if she never forgave me. I wiped my eyes, stood up, walked back to my car as darkness fell. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, I made peace with that October 15th, 2024. 9 a.m. Susan's office felt different today. The same mahogany desk, the same leather chairs, the same framed diplomas on the wall. But the air felt heavier, like the room knew what was about to happen. The documents were spread across the desk. 43 pages. I'd read every single one over the past 2 weeks, multiple times. I understood what I was signing. My phone was on Susan's desk face down. It had already rung twice this morning. Call number 348. Call number 349. I turned off the ringer, but I could see the screen light up with each attempt. Are you ready? Susan asked gently. I picked up the pen. It felt impossibly heavy. Yes. Alicia, before you sign, I need you to hear this one more time. Once these documents are filed with the state, they are irrevocable. Permanent. You cannot change your mind. Rosa cannot challenge them. No court can undo them. This land will be protected forever, but it will never be Rosa's inheritance. Do you understand? I understand. And you're certain. I thought about Antonio's 3 missing fingers, Leonard's 40 years of dawn to dusk work, David's deathbed plea. I thought about Rosa's voice on the phone reading Bruno's script like a hostage reading demands. I thought about protection versus comfort, long-term safety versus short-term peace. I'm certain. I placed the pen on the paper. The signature line waited for me, and I began to write, letter by letter, each one a choice, each one permanent. A, for Antonio, who'd saved 30 years to buy freedom in the form of land. L, for Leonard, who'd understood that stewardship meant sacrifice. I, for the inheritance I was about to destroy to save my daughter. C, for the choice only I could make. I, for the impossible decision that would define the rest of my life. A, for the answer that would either save Rosa or lose her forever. My hand moved across the page. The letters formed. My name appeared in ink. Alicia Bennett Dunn. Susan witnessed the signature, added her own name below mine, dated it. It's done, she said quietly. I'll file these with the state today. By tomorrow, the Bennett farm will be permanently protected under the Conservation Trust of Georgia. No one can sell it. No one can develop it. No one can subdivide it. It will remain exactly as it is for as long as the trust exists, which is forever. My phone lit up again on her desk. Call number 350. For the first time in 2 weeks, I picked up. Mom, finally, where have you been? Rosa's voice was high-pitched, frantic, the sound of someone who'd been pushed to the edge and was teetering there. I'm here, Rosa. Did you sign the deed transfer? Bruno's been trying to reach you for 2 weeks. The investors are backing out. We need those documents now. Today. This morning. I looked at Susan. She nodded slightly. Rosa, I need to tell you something. Mom, just answer the question. Did you sign? I signed papers? Yes. I heard her exhale, relief flooding her voice. Oh, thank God. Okay, that's good. Bruno will be so relieved. Can you send them to? They're not the papers you wanted. Silence. What bit? I didn't sign a deed transfer, Rosa. Then what did you sign? I took a breath. The farm is now in a conservation trust. What does that mean? It means the land is protected. Permanently. It can never be sold, developed, or subdivided. The silence stretched so long I thought the connection had dropped. Then, Mom, you can't. It's already done. Undo it? I can't. That's what irrevocable means. The papers are being filed with the state right now. By tomorrow it will be official. Permanent. You can't do this, that's my inheritance. It was your inheritance. Now it's protected for future generations. I'll sue you. Her voice cracked with rage and desperation. I'll take you to court. There's nothing to sue for, Rosa. The land doesn't belong to me anymore. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to the trust. I heard her start to cry. Not sad tears. Angry, frustrated, desperate tears. You've destroyed everything, she sobbed. Everything. Do you know what you've done? Bruno is going to leave me. Our marriage is over. You've ruined my life. If Bruno leaves you because he can't have the land, then he never loved you. How dare you? Rosa, listen to me, please. Just listen. No, you listen. You've been controlling me my entire life. Every boyfriend I ever had, you found something wrong with them. Every decision I made, you questioned. You never wanted me to grow up. You never wanted me to be independent. That's not true. It is true. Bruno said you'd try to deny it, but I see it now. I finally see what you've been doing all these years, Bruno said. There it was again. His words, his script, his manipulation. Rosa, do you hear yourself? Those aren't your words. Those are his words. They're my words, my feelings, my... She choked on a sob. You've taken everything from me. Everything. I've protected you. From what? From him, Rosa. My voice was steady now, calm. I'm protecting you from him. Bruno loves me. If he loves you, then why does he need $1 million to stay silent again? But different this time. Heavier. That's not... Her voice was smaller now, uncertain. That's not what this is about. Isn't it, Rosa? Think about it. Really think. When did your relationship change? When did you stop calling me Mom and start avoiding me? I didn't. When did you start repeating things Bruno said instead of saying what you thought? I don't. When did you start believing that everyone who loved you before him was wrong? Stop it. He's isolated you from me, from your friends, from everyone who cared about you before he came along. And now he's trying to use you to get something valuable. Don't you see that? You don't know anything about my marriage. I know enough. I hate you. The words came out as a scream, raw, primal. I hate you. I will never forgive you for this. Never. I closed my eyes. Let the words hit me. Let them hurt. I know, sweetheart, I know. Don't call me that. You're not my mother anymore. You're nothing to me. Nothing. Rosa. I hope you're happy with your precious land because you've lost me. You've lost your daughter. Was it worth it? Was the land worth losing me? I thought about David's letter, about Antonio's 3 fingers, about 70 years of protection. I thought about Rosa 20 years from now realizing what I'd saved her from. And I said the 4 words that changed everything. The 4 words that made this moment irrevocable. The 4 words that would haunt me and sustain me in equal measure. I'm protecting you, Rosa. Protecting me, you've destroyed me. From him, I'm protecting you from him. I hate you, she whispered. I hate you so much. I know, baby, but one day you'll understand. One day, the line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. Susan handed me a tissue. I hadn't realized I was crying. She'll call back, Susan said softly. I know. Probably many times. It will get worse before it gets better. I know that too. My phone lit up almost immediately. Call number 351. I didn't answer. Winter came to Georgia. The calls continued for 3 weeks. Then they stopped. No more calls. No more voicemails. No more texts. Just silence. I went to work. Came home. Made dinner I barely tasted. Watched TV I didn't process. Slept in fits and starts, waking at 3 a.m. to stare at the ceiling. The house felt enormous and empty. I'd lived alone for 14 years since David died, but I'd never felt alone. Rosa had visited regularly, called every week, sent random texts about her day. Now nothing. I checked her Instagram. She'd blocked me. Facebook, blocked. I asked a friend from church to check Rosa's social media. She was still posting. Smiling photos with Bruno, captions about fresh starts and cutting out toxic people and choosing happiness. December came, Christmas. I bought Rosa a gift, a necklace she'd admired years ago, wrapped it carefully, addressed it to her apartment in Atlanta. It came back 2 weeks later. Return to sender. January, February, March. 6 months of silence. I worked my shifts at the hospital. I tended the garden. I walked the farm on weekends, checking the fences, pulling weeds, maintaining what I'd fought so hard to protect. The Conservation Trust was official now. Filed, recorded, permanent. 3 trustees managed the property. Susan, a local environmental lawyer, and a professor from the University of Georgia who specialized in land conservation. They were good stewards. They understood what the land meant. But some nights alone in the house, I wondered if I'd made the right choice. If I'd sacrificed my daughter for dirt and grass. If love should have been enough. My friend Yolanda from church tried to help. She'll come around, she'd say. Give her time. But how much time? How long was I supposed to wait? I lost weight, couldn't eat. Food turned to ash in my mouth. I stopped sleeping well. Every sound in the night was Rosa coming back. Every car in the driveway was her. Every phone ring was her voice. But it never was. In April, I drove past her apartment complex in Atlanta. Told myself I was just in the neighborhood. Just checking. Her car was gone. The parking space empty. I almost knocked on the door anyway. Almost. But I didn't. Some boundaries once drawn can't be crossed. I drove home, sat in my kitchen, and finally truly grieved. Not for David this time. For Rosa. For the daughter I'd lost to save. Spring came. The oak tree budded. The creek flowed. The garden grew. And I learned to live with the silence. April 15th. 6 months to the day since I'd signed the papers. I was in the garden planting tomatoes. The soil was warm, ready. My hands worked automatically, making holes, placing seeds, covering them gently. My phone rang. I almost didn't check. Almost let it go to voicemail like I'd learned to do. But something made me look. Rosa's name on the screen. My heart stopped. Started again too fast. I answered with shaking hands. Hello, Mom. Her voice was small, broken, nothing like the angry screaming from 6 months ago. Mom, is that you? Rosa. Mom, She was crying, not angry tears, devastated tears. He's gone. Bruno's gone. I sat down hard on the ground, dirt on my knees, phone pressed to my ear. What happened? He left me. The words came between sobs. 2 weeks ago, he said if I couldn't give him the land, there was no point, that I was useless without it. My eyes closed. Where are you? At a hotel, the Comfort Inn on Highway 75. I can't afford the apartment anymore. He maxed out my credit cards. My savings are gone. I don't have anywhere to go. Oh, honey. You were right. Her voice cracked completely. You were right about everything. He never loved me. He only wanted the farm. And I was so stupid. So blind. I chose him over you and he... Mom, what have I done? I could hear her falling apart. Could hear 6 months of reality crashing down on her all at once. Rosa, listen to me. Where exactly are you? What's the address? She gave it to me through tears. I'm coming to get you. Right now. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. I'll be there in an hour. Mom, I don't deserve... Stop, just stop. Tell me what room you're in. Room 237. I'm leaving now. Do you hear me? I'm coming. Okay, she whispered. Okay. I hung up, ran inside, grabbed my keys, didn't bother changing clothes, didn't bother washing the dirt off my hands, just got in my car and drove. The Comfort Inn was a budget motel off the highway, 2 stories of beige siding and worn concrete, the kind of place where people went when they'd run out of options. Room 237 was on the 2nd floor. I took the stairs 2 at a time, knocked on the door. It opened immediately. Rosa stood there, and my heart broke. She'd lost weight, dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt, 2 suitcases beside her on the bed. Everything she owned, apparently. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then she crumpled, just collapsed forward, and I caught her. She sobbed into my shoulder like a child, Like she was 7 years old again crying because she'd fallen off her bike. Like she was 9 devastated because her father had died. Like she was 13 and her first boyfriend had broken her heart. I held her, didn't say anything, just held her and let her cry. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Shh, it's okay." "It's not okay. I said terrible things. I believed him over you. I chose him over you. How can you even stand to look at me? You're my daughter. That's how." She cried harder. We stood like that for a long time, in a cheap motel room that smelled like disinfectant and cigarette smoke, holding each other while Rosa released 6 months of pain. Finally, she pulled back, wiped her eyes. "He wasn't immediate about leaving," she said, her voice hoarse. "After you put the land in trust, he was still nice for a while. Told me we'd find another way, that we'd build something ourselves." She sat down on the bed. I sat beside her. "But every day he got a little colder, a little meaner, started staying out late, coming home smelling like perfume. When I asked about it, he'd say I was paranoid, controlling, just like you." I took her hand. 2 months ago, I found emails on his laptop. He'd left it open by accident. He was talking to another woman, someone named Jennifer. He was telling her the same things he'd told me. How special she was. How they'd build an empire together. "Rosa?" He was looking for someone else with money, someone with better opportunities. That's what he called it. I was a failed opportunity. "That's not—" Last week I confronted him. He didn't even deny it. Just said, "Your mother ruined this. If you'd convinced her to sign, we'd be fine. But you couldn't even do that. So now I have to move on." Like it was my fault. Like I'd failed some test. She laughed bitterly. "This morning I came home from work and his stuff was gone. Just gone. His clothes, his laptop, everything. He left a note. Want to know what it said?" I waited. "You're not worth the effort. Good luck with your controlling mother." She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "I threw away my relationship with you for a man who left me a 3-sentence breakup note." "You didn't throw it away," I said quietly. "I'm right here." Why are you here? I said horrible things to you. I chose him over you. You deserve a mother who protects you, even when you hate her for it, even when it costs everything." She started crying again. "The land," she whispered. "I can't believe I tried to take the land. Great-Grandpa Antonio's land, Grandpa Leonard's land, Dad's land. I tried to sell it to a con artist." "You didn't know." "I should have known. You tried to tell me. You tried to warn me. But I thought I knew better. I thought you were just being controlling. God, I'm such an idiot." "You're not an idiot. You're human. You fell in love with someone who lied very well." "I didn't love him." She looked at me. "I don't think I ever did. I loved the idea of him, the life he promised, the escape he offered." "Escape from what?" "From being alone. From feeling like I had to live up to your sacrifices. From the pressure of being the daughter of a woman who gave up everything for me. I'd never thought about it that way. Rosa, I never wanted you to feel pressured." "I know, but I did. You worked so hard for me, Mom. Night shifts and double shifts and sacrificing everything. How was I supposed to live up to that? How was I supposed to be worth all that sacrifice? By being yourself. That's all I ever wanted." "I don't even know who that is anymore." We sat in silence for a moment. "Do you want to come home?" I asked quietly. She looked at me with hope and fear mixed together. "Can I?" "Of course you can. It's your home. It's always been your home. But the things I said are forgiven. All of them. Come home, Rosa." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. We packed her 2 suitcases, checked her out of the motel, put her bags in my trunk, and we drove home together. July came, hot and humid. Classic Georgia summer. Rosa had been living with me for 3 months, working remotely as a freelance graphic designer, slowly rebuilding her life. We hadn't talked much about what happened, just existed in the same space. Learning each other again. One morning I found a letter on the kitchen table, addressed to me, in Rosa's handwriting. I sat down with my coffee and read it. Mom, I'm writing this because I don't know how to say it out loud. I destroyed everything. I let a man I barely knew turn me against the person who loved me most. I was greedy. I was naive. I was cruel. For 6 months, I blamed you. I told people you were controlling, manipulative, that you'd ruined my life. But you didn't ruin anything. You saved me. You saw what I couldn't see. You made the choice I was too weak to make. You protected me from myself. Dad's letter, I know Susan showed you his letter. But I found something too. In a box of his things you'd saved. He left me a letter too. Did you know that it was sealed, addressed to me with instructions to open it when I turned 25? I'm only 23, but I opened it anyway. I needed to hear from him. Do you know what he said? He said, Rosa, one day you'll have to choose between money and the people who truly love you. Choose right. Don't let greed poison your heart. Don't let someone use you to take what isn't yours to give. Trust your mother. She'll see clearly when you can't. He knew. Somehow he knew. And you both tried to protect me. You both tried to save me from making the worst mistake of my life. I can't undo what I said. Can't take back the hate. Can't erase the 6 months I wasted believing Bruno's lies. But I can try to be better. I can try to deserve a mother who would sacrifice her own relationship with her daughter to protect what matters. The farm is safe because of you. And maybe someday when I have children, they'll walk through those fields and I'll tell them about their great-great-grandfather Antonio, about their great-grandfather Leonard, about their grandfather David, about their grandmother Alicia, who loved them enough to make the hardest choice. I'm sorry, Mom, for everything. But more than that, I'm grateful. For your strength, for your protection, for your love. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. I love you, Rosa. I read the letter 3 times, held it against my chest, and cried. Not sad tears this time. Healing tears. October 15th, 2025. 1 year after I'd signed the papers. The Bennett Farm Conservation Trust had its first community event. Children from an Atlanta urban youth program arrived on a yellow bus. 15 kids ages 7 to 12. Most of them had never been outside the city, had never seen open fields, had never touched dirt that wasn't in a park. Rosa and I stood on the porch watching them tumble out of the bus like puppies. Miss Alicia, a little girl with braids, ran up to me. Is this all yours? It belongs to everyone now, I said, kneeling down. It's protected forever so kids like you can come here and learn about nature. Forever. Forever. Her eyes went wide. That's a long time, Rosa laughed. It was good to hear her laugh. She was doing better. Still healing. Still rebuilding. But better. We'd started a project together turning the farm into an educational space. Weekend programs for urban kids. Summer camps teaching sustainable farming. A legacy that honored the past while serving the future. Bruno had disappeared completely. Last I heard, he was in Florida courting someone else. Someone with a trust fund this time. Rosa had filed for divorce. It was final last month. She was free. Mom, Rosa said as we watched the children explore. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it losing me for 6 months? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Every single day, I said honestly. But I'd do it again. Why? Because some things are worth the cost. You're worth the cost. She took my hand. I understand now, she said quietly. What Dad meant. What great-grandpa meant. Legacy isn't about ownership. What's it about? Protection, love, sacrifice, knowing when to hold on and when to let go. I smiled. Now you understand. We stood together on the porch watching children run through fields that 4 generations of Bennetts had protected. Antonio's 3-fingered sacrifice. Leonard's 40 years of stewardship. David's deathbed planning. My impossible choice. And now Rosa's understanding. A little boy ran up to us breathless with excitement. Is this really going to be here forever? He asked. Yes, I said. Even when you're gone. Even when I'm gone. Even when your children's children are old. This land will still be here. He grinned and ran off to tell his friends. Rosa squeezed my hand. Thank you, she said, for protecting it. For protecting me. For loving me enough to let me hate you. That's what mothers do. That's what your mother did. I hope I can be that strong someday. I looked at her. 24 now, still young, still healing, but wiser than she'd been a year ago. You already are, I said. The sun set over the Bennett farm, golden light across 55 acres of protected land. Children's laughter echoing across fields that would echo with laughter for generations to come. I'd made the right choice, even if it had cost me everything. Even if Rosa had hated me. Even if I'd spent 6 months wondering if I'd destroyed my own daughter's love. Because love isn't just saying yes. Sometimes love is saying no. Sometimes love is drawing a line. Sometimes love is protecting people from themselves. David had known that. He'd tried to tell me. And now finally I understood. The 4 words I'd said to Rosa that day in Susan's office, I'm protecting you. Rosa, those words had broken everything, but they'd also saved everything. Broken us apart so we could heal separately. Saved us both from a future built on lies and manipulation. Protected the land so it could serve something bigger than any one person's greed. As darkness fell and the children loaded back onto the bus waving goodbye, Rosa and I sat on the porch. You know what's funny? Rosa said. What Bruno wanted this land so badly, saw it as millions of dollars, but he never understood what it really was. What is it, home? Not a place to own, a place to protect, a place that protects us right back. I smiled. Your father would be proud of you. He'd be proud of both of us. We sat in comfortable silence as stars began to appear. The land that 4 generations had protected stretched out before us. Not ours anymore, but still home, still safe, still exactly what it was always meant to be. A legacy, a protection, a promise kept, and that finally was enough.